morning. Welcome. Is everyone having a good day so far? Yes, they've put me on at 10 o'clock in the morning, the day after I was playing bass at the party last night. So yes, thanks for that. Yes, welcome to the worst programming language ever. I am Rendle. That's my only name. I have no other names. I'm rendle.dev on Blue Sky, and that's what the QR code is. And this is the worst programming language ever. And people always go, is it JavaScript? And you're like, no, we can do much better or worse than that. We're going to make the worst programming language ever. And we have to start by looking at history, because those who do not learn from history are unable to repeat it. So, the first terrible programming language was COBOL. This is Hello World in COBOL. There's a lot of capital letters, obviously, and there's a lot of boilerplate in there. Although IBM didn't think that was enough boilerplate, and they made their own version of COBOL, so that's Hello World in IBM COBOL. To be fair, there's a lot of job control language syntax in there as well, so don't get angry and correct me on that. So yes, and then we have APL. Has anyone heard of APL? So yeah, stands for A Programming Language, and it was designed for teaching, and this is Hello World in APL, because if you just have a string in quotes, it'll just go, oh, you want me to output that to stand it out, and you go, yes, that's what I want you to do. This is Conway's Game of Life in APL, which is just brilliant. Lots of characters on there that are not on your keyboard, and if you wanted to do this course at university and learn this language, you had to buy a keyboard that looked like this, which I just thought was genius. So yes, in the 1970s, there were enough people around with enough time on their hands that people started making joke programming languages. And my favorite one was the compiler with no pronounceable acronym, or intercal. This is Hello World in intercal, and you'll notice a few things. So every line has to start with do. Some lines, though, you have to say please. If you don't say please often enough, the compiler will error out, and the error is programmer is insufficiently polite. If you say please too much, it will say programmer is excessively polite, and the correct ratio of please to not please is not documented anywhere. Intercal also has a come from statement instead of a go to statement, and I thought that was stupid, but I'm a C# developer, and last year we got interceptors. And interceptors let you basically go from this point, and don't call that function, call this function instead, and you're kind of like, did you just add intercal's come from to C#? So yes. Then there was Visual Basic. You can't really do Hello World in Visual Basic, so that's the closest I could get to that. And then there's this language, which I used to use in the 90s, Gupta SQL Windows. That collapsible list box, that's the editor. You actually edited your code in that, and the source file format was binary. So source control, no. So we are going to make something that's worse than all of them, though. And I first did this talk at Build Stuff in 2014. The previous year, Bertrand Meyer had done the closing keynote about Eiffel, and it was incredibly dry. And so they said, oh, you do the closing keynote. And I went, OK, I'll make my language, and it'll be better than Eiffel. And so I called it BS, Build Stuff. It stands for Build Stuff. And also, these days, programming languages have to have mottos because you have to do the marketing from the start. And so this is BS's motto. Why? Because Q, that's why. All right, we need our design principles for our language. So a lot of languages, they have this idea of creating the pit of success. We don't want to do that. We want to create the pit of fail. Actually, that's not strong enough. We want to create the booby-trapped Aztec temple of fail. So the programmers come in like Indiana Jones and just all the foot guns go off at the same time. We are not going to trust the programmer to get simple things right because programmers are stupid. However, we are going to leave all the really complicated stuff to the programmer to get right because programmers are clever. And this is important, we are going to try to do everything. AI, ML, low-level systems, everything from Furbies to videos and blah, 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 blah. We're going to replace Macromedia Flash. So, Inspiration. Let's like decide what base language we're going to use. What are we going to start with as our kind of template? And I think there's really only one choice. Yeah, PHP. PHP is actually a recursive acronym. It's like, GNU's not Unix. And so, yeah, PHP is a recursive acronym for PHP hates programmers. So from PHP, we are going to take the complete inconsistency. Some things are shouty camel case, some things are underscore trait. It's just whatever. Every variable is going to have a prefix, except because we're European, we're going to use the euro symbol, which instead of the dollar symbol, which has the advantage of being really hard to type on keyboards. And so I'll be able to sell keyboards with a euro symbol on them. We're going to have the hassle of C and C++, but the performance of Altair Basic, which recently turned 50. So here we go. This is BS. We have a class called greeter. It has a public function underscore construct, because obviously that's what you want to call your constructors. And we have the euro prefix on all our variables, and then we have the dash greater than symbol for dereferencing, and commas for string concatenation, because I love commas for string concatenation in PHP. That's just one of my favorite things about it. And also at the end there you see we've got a BS : EOL. That's a constant defined in the BS namespace. So yes. But we're going to add more features to this to make it worse. We are going to take something from Python. So on the screen here, you can see this Python code does not work. And this Python code on the right does work. Okay? Yeah, no, they're the same. The difference is white space. The left side has a tab somewhere in the white space, and the right side doesn't. Okay, so we are taking that. We're going to take significant white space from Python. To be fair, we're also taking it from F# and Haskell and Occam and various other things, and so we're going to stick that in there. However, we are going to keep the semicolon line endings for reasons that will become clear later. Now, the way white space works... I'm stepping into the dark, I'm sorry. The way white space works, though, is it's very specific. So we do two-space indentation, okay? So when you have two spaces, that's one level of indentation. But two levels of indentation is a single tab, and you have your tab width set to 4. And then the next level is a tab and then two spaces, okay? Yeah, makes sense? Right. And then you're kind of like, okay, how are we going to do comments? Because one of the first things you want to put into any programming language is comments. And someone actually suggested this to me. So because we use two spaces for each level of indentation, that means the level of indentation is always even. So the number of spaces is always even. So if you have an odd number of spaces, so if you have 3 spaces, that's a comment. Okay? So you can see here, this is a comment because it's indented by 3 spaces. All right? That's seriously, I look at some programming languages and they have made worse design decisions than that, I tell you. So yes, look at, NIM. NIM does different things depending on how many spaces you put around an operator, and it can be like 0, 1, or 2. Very, very weird. Almost every language ever has null. I mean, some of these modern things like Zig and Rust and stuff don't, but I like null. It causes so many null reference exceptions. And so we're taking that. And then if we're going to have null, then we need a way to deal with things when they're null, and they shouldn't be, obviously. So we need some kind of handling for that. And so from Ruby, so Ruby has raise invalid format unless allowed formats.include format. What the f is that? Unless, why? Why? Especially because you almost always in Ruby code, you see raise error unless everything's okay, which is like running into this room and shouting, everybody get out, unless there's not a fire. So I'm taking that. Not only am I taking it, that's the only conditional. Okay? That is the only conditional. Also, we only have one exception, and it's halt and catch fire, and you can't catch it. Okay? And because of the indentation, obviously the unless has to go afterwards, and so you do the extra indent, halt and catch fire, and then on the next line you outdent and you do the unless thing doesn't equal null. And we'll come back to what the fuck's going on with that equality operator shortly. So yes. This is a new feature that I've added just for you guys, because most of you are Java developers, as I understand it, and Java has checked exceptions. And so you have this, this bit here where it says throws file not found exception. And I really like that, because it's just extra typing, and extra typing is good. And so we're going to have throws, halt and catch fire. It's entirely pointless because you can't catch it. It's essentially the same as doing a panic and just crashing the program. I could say I stole that from Erlang. But yes, the other, though I'm not in love with the word throws, because it doesn't always throw. Throws implies that if you call this method, it's going to throw, and it's not necessarily going to throw. So I'm going to change that to might. There you go. That inspires confidence, doesn't it? Oh. Another one that was suggested by a member of the public, Greek. Yes, we're not just taking from programming languages, we're taking from real languages. So this is a Greek question mark, and that is a semicolon. Yeah. They basically look the same in most fonts. You can get fonts that make them look different, but they are Greek. And so we're going to say that the unless lines have to end with the Greek question mark, and all the other lines have to end with a semicolon. And so now we have this, which looks exactly like it did last time, except that is a Greek question mark after the unless statement. Again, custom keyboards will be sold. Okay, what can we take from JavaScript? I mean, apart from everything, like prototypal inheritance. Yeah, but no, we're going to take truthiness and falsiness from JavaScript, and type coercion, okay? So in JavaScript, an empty string doesn't equal 0 in a string. 0 does, however, equal an empty string, and 0 also equals the string 0. False doesn't equal undefined, false doesn't equal null, but null does equal undefined. And so to get around the whole thing there, we had to invent the triple equals and the bang double equals to do strict equality. Are they the same type of object? Which is just, like, that's the first thing you check when you want to see if two objects are equivalent. Are they the same kind of object? If they're not the same. But that's obviously too complicated. So, but what we are going to have, my slides have got all confused. So yes, BS is going to implement all of this. And we're also going to take it further. So 0 is going to equal the word 0 in any case, and 22 divided by 7 equals pi. The emoji for pi. If you want to do strict equality, you have to put an exclamation mark at the end of the equals thing. Okay, so you're at the end of the not equals. So this is strict inequality. All right, because it's like you put the exclamation mark at the end to say it's important. I don't know why JavaScript didn't do it this way. It's obviously better. The problem was that the equals bang looked a bit strange, and so the way you do actual equality, so to say is equal, is bang bang equals bang. Okay, and so bang equals bang, we call that the shopping trolley operator. And bang bang equals bang is a person on a rollerboard pushing a shopping trolley operator. So yes, there you go. That is the strict equality operator. 1 bang bang equals bang. 1. From BS, the awesome parts. So strings. Strings are amazing because there's lots of different kinds of strings, so many different ways of handling strings. So if you put a string in single quotes, that's ASCII. Not UTF-8, ASCII. 7-bit ASCII, it doesn't do the extended code pages. If you put it in 2 sets of single quotes, then that's ANSI. If you put it in double quotes, that's DBCS, because you need to interact with mainframes, obviously. Double quotes is EBCDIC, because IBM. And then there's my own string encoding at the end there, which is in French quotes, and that is UTF-256. So that's a 256-bit identifier for every character, which is enough to index every single photo that ever has been or will be taken. And the plan is to start a web service, and you upload your photo, and it gives you your UTF-8256 encoding for it. Visual Basic, specifically 6.0. So, I mean, let's use the same character for arrays as we use for methods and functions. That's a good idea. So, yeah, we'll do dim f round brackets 10 as integer, and then we'll let f1. So arrays start at 1. Unless you set something somewhere in the settings, and then they start at 0. And making that configurable is genius. So yes. The other thing was that Visual Basic 6, the integer type was 16-bit, which meant the long was 32-bit. This was it compiled to 32-bit executables. Okay, this was like the Windows 95 era. And so yes, it went 32-bit. There was no 64. I can't no. So we're going to do something like that. We're going to keep the round brackets. Obviously, we need our prefix, our Euro prefix there. But it starts at -1 and then it goes down. Okay? And we're going to have 17-bit integers. And then, obviously, that's going to take 24 bits to store that. And then that gives us 7 bits that we can use to keep other stuff in. It's like a handy little pocket. So... C and C++. Obviously, the thing you want to take from C is the thing that everybody hates about C, which is define and macros. Because I remember I was around in the 80s and 90s, and when the arguments between the C programmers and the Pascal programmers were still going on. And one of the arguments that the C programmers used to illustrate their superiority was that you could do define open curly brace, begin, and define close curly brace, end, and define equals colon equals, and define equals equals to equals, and then C could compile Pascal code. And which is not necessarily a good thing. So we're going to adopt something like that, except we're going to use something that wasn't really that widespread when C was created, regular expressions. What could possibly go wrong? So yes, up at the top there we have define my capture, whatever that is, thing, and then colon and dollar, and then that becomes class and the capture thing from there, colon. So my greeter thing becomes class greeter. Yeah? So, I mean, just theoretically, you could do anything with that. If you are good enough at regular expressions, there is no limit. You could replace the entire program. So, yes, we're definitely doing that. Static or dynamic typing, though. So who's in favor of static types? Who's in favor of dynamic types? Yeah, weirdos. So yes, because I'm mostly C#, and I like that. Python, sometimes JavaScript, but JavaScript I use TypeScript because it adds types. So I'm generally in favor of static typing, but I don't want to alienate Python, JavaScript, Ruby programmers. And so we're going to do something that Facebook invented, gradual typing, which is where you have a dynamic language, but you can put type hints in to say this should be a string and stuff. So we're going to adopt something like that. So we're going to have the is probably a keyword. And so there you can say thing is probably a string. Okay. Now, the thing with these operators is that you have to get the grammar correct. Okay. So if it's an integer, then it's is probably an, obviously. And then if it's an array, then it becomes are probably, and you have to pluralize the type. So that would be things are probably strings. Okay. Gradual typing. Yeah, me too. Okay, script or compiled? Now, obviously, compiled is the best way to go. And even scripts these days, they JIT them, so they're compiling them before they hit the actual underground thing. But there's the semi-compiled idea, and I think me as a .NET developer, you as Java JVM people, we can all agree that that semi-compiled thing is the thing to aim for. So we're going to go for that. But obviously, we also need to compile to ECMAScript 3 so we can support IE 11. Because you still get people complaining that your thing doesn't support IE 11, and you no, just why? Memory management. Now, we all have garbage collectors, and we love our garbage collectors. They stop us from doing very stupid things. However, they do slow you down a lot. You know, if you look at things about optimizing Java code or optimizing .NET code, it's all about reducing heap allocations to take the load off the garbage collector, because that's what makes us slow. The garbage collector goes, everybody stop what you're doing, I need to do some cleaning, and then like comes in with a hoover. Scares the dog. So, we're not going to do garbage collection because performance, I mean, we're going to compile so badly that the performance is going to be terrible anyway. So anything we can do to help improve that will be better. So we're not going to do automatic reference counting. We're going to do manual. So we're going to say you have to delete things. Now, it's important to note that delete has a capital D. It is the only keyword in the language that has a capital D. Remember the inconsistency thing. So you have to remember that. The methods, the functions, are all call by value, not call by reference. So that name that's been passed in there, that's created a copy of the name, and it's allocated on the heap because we don't have a stack. And so we have to delete that parameter, otherwise that will leak memory. So at the end of every method, you have to delete all the parameters that were passed into that method. Yeah, otherwise they'll stay in memory and just be around forever. Loops. So yes, these are the two rules that I live by. If it's broke, don't fix it, and if it's not broke, then break it and run away. So yes, we are going to do loops. Anyone done Fortran? Yeah, we're going to do Fortran. We're going to use goto. So, but with a specific set of rules, okay? Because Douglas Adams, the greatest author who has ever lived, and the author of the greatest book ever, because of him, we are going to say that line numbers have to be multiples of 42, going up as you go through the source code. So if you want to insert a new goto, you have to renumber all the lines after that and add 42 to every single one of them. There's going to be like a resharper or an IntelliJ kind of assistant thing to help you with this, so you'll be able to go, oh, just change all the other numbers. I'm thinking like $999 a year is a reasonable thing for that. So yes, here we have line 42, echo thing. We've got thing is probably a string and times in there. We don't know what that is, but we're going to assume it's thing. So then we're going to go 42 echo thing, and then go to 42 indented, unless minus times, because we have prefix decrement operators, definitely doesn't equal, or is definitely equal to 0. You can tell how bad this language is. I get muddled up. So yes, this is my favourite thing, because the lines indented before the unless, that is my single favourite thing about this abomination that I have created. Threads. This was missing from the first version, and someone said, how do you do multi-threading? The first time I did this, please, by the way, do not try and implement this language. Seriously, the first time I did this talk, by the time I'd finished, there were 2 GitHub repos. There is nothing that you can suggest that is so stupid that somebody on the internet won't attempt it. So yeah, please don't implement this. But one of the ideas that they threw at me at the end was the editor is Microsoft Word with plugins, and you could do thread priority by font weight. So if the code was in bold, that was a higher priority thread than code that was just in regular, which I liked, but I'm not wild about the word thing. So if you want to do threads, you say do, and then this, and this, and you can have as many ands as you want, and then it will just multi-thread all those things, which is completely brilliant. And I went, I've done it, I've solved threading. And then someone said, oh, well, but what if I don't know how many, if I'm like trying to process a list in parallel, how do I split that across lots of threads? And I was kind of like, oh, yeah, how can I don't know. And then I was researching another language and another talk, and I came across Forth. Forth syntax is very, very weird because it's a stack-based programming language. And so you push, essentially you're saying push two, push plus, and then execute. And then it will pop 4 off the stack at the end there. But it also has this evaluate syntax. Forth, as far as I can tell, was the first language to include eval. And and then other languages picked it up, and so we're going to as well. So here's how you do dynamic threading in BS. You have your string. This is an ANSI string. You have to use ANSI strings for this. I don't know why, but that's the rule. And then we have 42 threads, comma equals. That's the concatenation equals operator. And then do colon, and then a new line. Else threads equals this, unless. So this is a backwards unless statement. Unless this, do this, otherwise do this, okay? And then here we add the extra do statement, the thing that we want it to do, and then we go to 42. All right? Except 42, it won't go to 42 if this is, it'll go to here instead, yeah? Does anyone think they could program in this language at this point? I normally get at least one hand. Modest people in this. Yeah. So yes, that, and then down at the end here, we've got our string, and so the string type in BS actually has an evaluate method, which is all in capitals, and it's the only method in the entire thing that doesn't use brackets at the end. And yes, note at the bottom here, somebody actually pointed this out on YouTube. They went, you've got a memory leak in your threading function. I was kind of like, where? They went, you're not deleting the iterator variable. You're leaking an integer. That's 17 bits just going missing every time you get... What am I doing? Okay. We're nearly done. There's a big, long interactive bit at the end of this, because I love to get people to tell me their nightmares. Anyone done mumps? I'll tell you about mumps after the... So, yes. Last thing, though, Dylan Beattie suggested this to me. Go. So this is Go's date handling, date formatting, date parsing. Anyone done a bit of Go? Anyone, like, formatted or parsed a date in Go? Yeah, it's really weird because, okay, from the documentation, Go doesn't use YYYYMMDD to format a time. Instead, you format a special layout parameter, Monday the 2nd of January, 15:04:05, Mountain Standard Time in 2006. The thing that bothers me about this is the person who wrote the documentation obviously knew that there was YYYYMMDD handling. They knew that every other programming language in the entire universe, as far as we know, uses YY, and they still decided to go with this weird date as well. And apparently, the date is easier to remember when it's written as 12345 PM 6:07. I mean, yes, but 0102 is the 1st of February everywhere else in the world, and it's kind of like, are only Americans supposed to use this language? And then we've got 03:04:05 PM. Why it's not AM, I don't know, because Americans don't understand 24-hour clocks, that's why. And then 2000, I think 2006 was when Go was created and should have like died in the cradle. So yes, but we're gonna steal that. I love that. So we're gonna use the Yes, BS doesn't use the blah, blah, blah. Instead, you format a special layout parameter Friday, November the 21st at 10 past 5 in Eastern European time in 2014, which is the first time I did this talk. So, yes, there you go. That date is easier to remember when written as 11/21/05/10:00 PM 14 plus 02. So, yes, there you go. This is the ISO format string in BS using BS's special date. So thank you very much, Rob Pike, for that and so many other things. People pay me to write Go sometimes. People pay me to contribute to open telemetry projects and stuff. And yeah, I don't like it. I'm not deleting any of my things here, so this is a terrible memory leak. But yes, that's. I've obviously edited this slide on the Mac, and it's gone. Oh, you want proper quotes? So yes, no, I don't. So yes, and then I kind of leave this time at the end here for suggestions from you guys, nightmares and things. And I'm very interested in this one because I'm guessing there's some Kotlin people, there might be some Scala people, there might be some Clojure people and stuff. But I do just want to tell you about mumps because somebody told me about mumps. Mumps is a language that was specifically created, I think they use it mostly in the US. It was specifically created for building healthcare software. And it has a really interesting design decision. If you ever played text adventures back in the 80s, you might remember that the longer verbs, you only had to type enough letters for it to uniquely identify that verb. So if there was like throw, you could just do THR and it would just work out because there's only one verb that starts with TH. And so mumps did the same thing with their keywords and their variable names and their method names. If it makes it unique, if it can work it out from what you've typed, then that's fine. Good luck reading anybody else's code at this point, because that's one of those things. It's like you're saying to people, please don't call your variables X. It's a customer. It should be customer. You should call it customer. It's not X. But to actually then go and apply that to keywords and go, yes, we can make the keyword only 2 characters. 1 in 10. So yes. So that was mumps. But no, anyone got any? Hello, yes, Eli. Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, package management. Do you know what? I think I'm going to go with... No, sure, I think I'm going to go. I think you mail in. I think you send an email. You send an email to an address, and it sends you an email back with the package as an attachment. Yeah. And then the compiler is actually programmed to look for packages in your outlook.pst file. And then we'll sell a very expensive add-on where you can do it through Teams for people for millennials and Zoomers who don't like email. So yes, no, thank you for that. I'm going to add that to the next, because yes, you need package management. Anyone else? Yes, hello. Yes. Oh. I mean, one thing I think the most evil thing you could do would be not have a compiler error if you lowercase the d, but it doesn't do anything. And so you think you're deleting the variables, but you're not, and you are in fact leaking memory. There's that. Or it could just run rm-rf/. Yeah, no, let's do that one. The thing is, you do rm-rf/, it gets to /bin first, and then it deletes the rm file, and then it can't carry on. What you actually want to do is rm-rf tilde. That's the home directory for non-Linux people. I nearly said Unix, because I'm really fucking old. So yes, if you come up, if you're not like a hands up talking in front of people or whatever, please, that is my actual email address. People have emailed me treatises on why I should add things, and I love it, and I always reply to them, and they're all in a Obsidian notebook somewhere. So yes, any other horror? Yes, hi. Oh yes, yes. No, I like so factories, and it's not enterprise enough. So let's go back. So right. So actually, we could say there are no constructors, and the only way to new up an object is to use a factory, and the only way to get a factory is to go to the factory manager. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Is there a thing that manages the managers? Like a factory manager, overseer, supervisor? Yes, yes. See, this is one of those, the C# Java rivalry, which really isn't a thing anymore, because, we won. You're on Java 24 and it still doesn't do half of what C# 12 did. And they burned him at the stake. No. I've completely. Oh no, that was it. So yes, it's very strange though, because Java and C, we both have this kind of tarnish of we're just enterprise things, and then .NET also has that thing of and it's Windows only, which obviously is not, and it's closed source, which is also not true. Java's closed source, but .NET isn't anymore. But we never, because we slavishly copied everything Java did for like the first 3 versions. But we never really got into that whole factory manager, supervisor weirdness. I think it's because nobody early on in the evolution of the language invented beans. And I think beans is where that whole factory manager thing came from, because you want to create a bean, you have to use a So yes, I know very little about Java. If I have to do JVM programming, I use Kotlin because it's better. So yes. Hi, yes. Are you glad you stayed? Good, excellent. That's what I want. Like PostgreSQL. PostgreSQL, it's the columns and table names and stuff, isn't it? You use double quotes for the things. But the keywords were in double... The keywords, the things that were built into the languages, looked like strings. Had single quotes. That's... Yeah. Yeah, no, I could definitely put that in there. Obviously, I've used the quote characters already, but there's something... Oh, square brackets. Yeah, keywords have to have square brackets around them. And that would look a lot like SQL, because that's what SQL Server uses instead of the double quotes, yes. Hello. Question mark. I've used the Greek question mark. No. I still got that to play. What can you... Because that's like null guard in JavaScript, which stole it from C#. Do you have the question mark operator in Java now? I think Kotlin, I'm pretty sure Kotlin has it, like question mark dot, and question mark for the null or, if this one's null, then do this one. Null conditional, that's the thing, yes. And also question mark equals, to say if this is null, assign it to that, and yes, because all that typing was what was slowing us down. So yes, what was the other language? Burp. Good name. Okay, so sorry, I have to repeat this for the video. So we have a burp, which is basic using reverse Polish. Reverse Polish notation is what that fourth thing is, where you have your operands and then your operator, and then it executes it because it's stack-based. And so burp was basic, except when it was doing maths, and then it switched into fourth-like syntax. Excellent stuff. Forth was one of the only programming languages that was available for the Apple II. It had BASIC built in. I think Woz wrote the BASIC that was built in, and you could program it in assembler. But yeah, the only other programming language you get for it was Forth, and people wrote like entire things in Forth. So yes. Any other suggestions? Hello, yes. With comments with the odd number of, yeah. Ooh. Ooh. Yes. Okay, yeah. Oh, and dot comments. Yeah, I forgot about dot comments. Yes. Right. Okay, actually, you've really helped me out here. So this is about enforcing comments, kind of like test coverage, but for comments. But making sure that you can't just like spam the same comment over and over, like put a comment here all over the place, or whatever. But I have been trying to work out a way to work AI into this. And so you're going to get an LLM built into the compiler, a 72 billion parameter LLM built into the compiler. So if you haven't got 128 gigabytes of video memory, compiling's going to be slow. And it's going to read your comments, and it's going to grade them out of 10. And if you don't get, you get to set a compiler flag, but your continuous integration servers have it preset to 9, so you have to get at least a 9. And if you get all 10s over the course of a year, then you get a £5 Amazon voucher at Christmas. Yeah. More from Eli. Hello. Testing? Testing's what users do. Yeah. I've always found users make excellent testers. If something doesn't work, they will tell you. Really quite rapidly, actually. No detail, obviously. It broke. What broke? I don't know. It just stopped. When did it stop? Oh, I can't remember what I was doing. Well, start it again. I don't want to. It's broken. 99% of GitHub issues right there. So, yes. Hi, yes, hello. Yes. Yes. Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, no, the compiler error messages are going to be like Wikipedia articles about pop culture things. It's like the Wikipedia article for the history of Europe is like 2 pages, and the Wikipedia article for Eevee the Pokemon. So, yes, we'll have Eevee Pokemon style error messages. Because there's I thought about stealing some stuff from Rust, because Rust, it's brilliant, it's genius. I completely understand what they're trying to do. It's an absolute sod to actually write programs in. But the reason I'm thinking of it, it has the loveliest error messages, because there's so many things you can do wrong, and they are like things you are going to do wrong repeatedly for your first like 3 months with the language. And so if you look at Rust's compiler error messages, it goes, oh, what you've done here, you can't use this variable anymore because it's been borrowed over here. So you lent it to this thing over here and stuff. So what you might want to do is call clone on, but it gives you, and it's like the compiler's just going, oh, there, you did your best. Yeah, no, well done. Yeah, no, okay. Have a cookie. So yes, thank you. Oh, God, yes. Yes. Yep. No, Rust. Yeah. I did try and write a whole thing in Rust, and quite honestly, I gave up. I am now going to have to try again because I have a me and Dylan Beattie, we have a podcast, which goes out at Thursday, 4 o'clock. We live stream the recording on YouTube, and we use StreamYard. And there's one other alternative, which I think is called Riverside. But these are basically like websites where you can, if Dylan's not there, I get Eli to come and join in. And last year, when I signed up for it, it was £20 a month for the pro thing. And so it's 240 quid, which was 120 quid each, which seemed reasonable for a podcast thing. This year, it just took the money out of my account, and I got a pop-up because I have Monzo, and it went 640 quid. Paid to StreamYard, and you just go, what? That's what is this, tariffs? Are you importing the bytes? Are you paying import duty on the video streams that we're sending you? So I'm going to write my own StreamYard. How hard can it be? And then I thought, well, I have no idea how to do video streaming. I don't really understand WebRTC. I don't know all of these sorts of things. I know, I'll vibe code it. And so I paid my 20 quid for a GitHub Copilot license for 1 month, and I tried to vibe code the thing. And I looked at what you use for this, and the first thing that popped up was something I think it's called Pion, which is Go. And so I went, okay, create a Go application that's got a web server, and it takes 2 RTC streams and forwards them to GStreamer, which then composites them into a single thing and then sends it to YouTube. This is all stuff that you basically just orchestrating these very, very clever libraries. And the thing that happened with the vibe coding is it went off and it found all the GStreamer code samples that it had in its database. And there's a Go SDK, there's a Rust SDK, there's a C SDK, and there's a .NET SDK. And the AI didn't know the difference. And so you'd get a line of Go, then a line of C#, and then a line of fucking C. Sorry, swore. And yes. And it was just, So, but next I'm going to try and vibe code this thing in Rust, because the majority of the samples for GStreamer are in Rust. And so I've got the Z editor, which has Rust support built in because it's written in Rust. I've got the AI plugin for that. I've got a local LLM that runs on this. I just got this Mac. It's an M3 Max. I got it refurbished. The other night, I was running a local 8 billion parameter model on battery, and the fans didn't even spin up. Then I ran a Python program, and it sounded like an aircraft was taking off. And I'm not lying. The Python program in question was the web UI for Olama. And yeah, Olama on its own, running in the background, completely fine, running a large language model. Opened the Python web UI, and it was I don't know if it just like tipped it. It was like that extra 1%, the straw that broke the camel's back kind of thing. Okay. We have time for one more suggestion, I think, if anybody's got anything. Or okay, Charles, hey. Yes, sequel. Oh, yes. 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 You're pretty sure you didn't, yes. Yes, and it wouldn't tell you what character it was at on line 0. Oh, so it can only tell you the nearest numbered line. So error near line 42. Yes. Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah. That's brilliant. I really need to think more about the compiler and the developer experience. I've focused a lot on the syntax. I need to start thinking about the developer experience for this. And then I'm going to pitch it to Netflix. They'll greenlight anything these days. Hi, yes, okay, I'll let you squeeze one in. Go on then. Ooh! You mean one bang bang equals bang one? And yes. Yeah, no, I like that. Yes, no, that's great. Talking of SQL, my early career, I did work with Infomix, which at the time was like the main competitor to Oracle. And then IBM acquired it. It still exists. You can still use it. But they introduced, I think it was version 4 of their database engine. And this apparently was a feature that people have been asking for, was that you could have tables and columns names that were keywords, which meant you could create a table called select. No, you could create a table called from, which had a column called select, and another column called where, and another column called like, and a column called group, and a column called by, and a column called order. And then you could write a SQL statement that said select from, where, like, group by, order by, order by. And yes, how that was a good idea, I don't know. Okay, so like I say, any occur to you later, please do email them to me. I love getting that stuff. But that is it. You can go away now, and I'll be around if you want to come and talk to me. Thanks very much.